And so I think financial literacy can be the first step towards people building a firm foundation for themselves and their families, and it motivates you. You know, it's like if you get some extra money in and you're not sure what to do with it, that's one thing. But if you get some extra money in and you know you want to try and save it or invest it in a particular way, it becomes habit forming and addictive. And so you want to save more money so you can keep on building your foundation and making progress. That's certainly something that fueled a lot of my success over the years in business, nonprofits, and now trying to build a movement to help people.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk more about my experiences, and certainly for the people who are watching this, I know it's difficult to think that anyone could be just in your shoes where you're just starting out. You're not sure what the future holds. You're not sure how to plan for your future. I was there. Most everyone was there. And what's funny about financial literacy is that they really don't teach it in school, which is totally messed up. And it's one reason why I'm so grateful to this event and organizations that are trying to change that and teach financial literacy to adults or to people at the school level, because it really ought to be integrated into the way we get educated. But I went to high school, still didn't know much. I studied economics in college, and you may not believe this, but even if you study economics, you might not be financially literate. Because it's not like in your economics class they teach you about personal finance or investment options. You know, they'll teach you about XY curves and microeconomics and macroeconomics, and so financial literacy to me is part of being a successful participant in the modern economy, and we are not equipping enough of our people with that knowledge base and those skills.
Absolutely. And, Andrew, we believe with financial education, we can solve a lot of problems. And it was the first time I actually heard you speak that you also even felt with universal basic income that $1,000 a month can help with other issues that usually people wouldn't correlate with financial education or finances in general, like mental health issues, crimes, etc. Can you expand more on that for us, please?
Yeah, when you don't have a sense of how you're going to pay next month's bills, it doesn't just affect you financially, it affects you emotionally, it elevates your stress level, it can affect your relationships. We've all been there. When you're stressed out about how to pay your bills, you might be more likely to snap at your partner or not spend enough time with your kids. And so it infiltrates every part of your life. There have been studies that have shown that if you can't pay your bills, it instills a mindset of scarcity that decreases your functional intelligence by 13 IQ points or one standard deviation. So you'll actually become less rational, less smart, and more impulsive because you can't pay your bills. So finances touch every part of our lives. And the opposite of mindset of scarcity is a mindset of possibility and abundance. And that's what financial literacy can lead to. Because if you have a very secure plan and you're making progress towards it, it gives you peace of mind and it improves your mental health, decreases your stress levels, can improve your relationships. Certainly, this has been true for me in my life. When I was in my 20s and I was starting businesses that frankly were not working out, it was very difficult for me to form healthy relationships because I was always so stressed out about trying to make the next thing work. And it was only when I had a more stable, both professional life and financial life, that I was able to build relationships that would last for years and years.
Absolutely. I found that that basically, when it comes to financial education, I'm sorry. I get so excited when I'm around you. But
thank you. I appreciate it.
No, but we know that financial education, when we ask a lot of people out there, the biggest thing that people mostly fight about is finances, right? And biggest stress levels come from medical bills and whatnot. So I'm so glad that. Go ahead.
We have all been there. Everyone, it's like there's virtually no relationship you can have that money does not touch in some way, and that starts even in your family. Like you have a back and forth with your parents about money. Can I buy this? Can I do that? And then your parents have certain attitudes about money that you get, but you also have conflicts with them and tension, and they have tension with each other. We inherit it, and then when we have a partner, the same thing happens, and relationships can struggle and even fail if you guys aren't seeing eye to eye on money issues, like if you have just completely different spending habits. So it's interesting, and someone should document like our different money attitudes. Like I grew up the son of immigrants, so I was brought up in an environment where it seemed like money was very important, because they always were trying to establish a firm financial picture for the family. And so I inherited that, and that had its ups and downs, honestly. And there were times when I had to kind of unlearn some of those things in a relationship, because someone I was with maybe had a different attitude. So this is fundamental to forming healthy relationships, in my experience, that you have both some financial literacy, but also the ability to communicate those issues to your partner.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned the immigrant story. We would love for you to expand more about your story. Many of us here, we come from all different backgrounds, all walks of life. A lot of families are immigrants that are listening to us here today. And, just like my parents, usually coming here and, as refugees and trying to build their financial foundation, and then coming and having kids like me, millennials, Gen Xers, et cetera, but basically really emphasizing that traditional like way of life, like go to school, get a good job, get a good degree, get a good job. I know you did. You, in a way, kind of checked off all of those things, but even having going to prestigious schools and great career, but yet you still found something a little bit, unsettling, and therefore you wanted to become an entrepreneur. Can you share more about your story on, those feelings and emotions that you're going through? Because that's something that we want to invite a lot of people here, is to explore entrepreneurship.
I love entrepreneurship. I think that many children of immigrants are naturally very entrepreneurial, but I will agree with you that that entrepreneurial spirit we have actually runs sometimes in conflict with this other tendencies we have, which is go to school, get a good job, pursue very stable opportunities, and then on the other hand, we kind of want to do our own thing. And I've done both. Certainly, I've spent more time now as an entrepreneur than in a normal job, because I was a lawyer for only 5 months. So now I've done other things for longer than 5 months. But entrepreneurship, to me, makes the world go around. And it's almost impossible to pursue your entrepreneurial dreams or visions or aspirations without understanding how the numbers work. And what I found was that I became addicted to trying to build my own financial footing, and then that mindset actually applies perfectly in a business. Where if you start a business, you need those financial skills. You need to figure out, how much money everything is going to cost, and whether or not you can pay payroll. And so those skills are very much the same. And if you want to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities, then being financially literate is a big part of it. But what you'll find is that that success will feed on itself. That if you equip yourself with the right skills, you will naturally want to do more things independently. That's been my experience, but I love entrepreneurship. If you are driven to try and do something independently, you should definitely pursue that. And right now, in some ways, is both a great time and a terrible time to pursue that kind of ambition. Like, it's a great time because frankly, the economy is a mess. And if the economy is a mess, you might be able to make more opportunity, and it could be that traditional opportunities are harder to come by. It's a tough time because resources are going to be tight for a lot of households and a lot of companies for the time being.
Right. And so you said you heard a little bit of my interview with Dr. Cooper earlier, and he talked about how Americans are well known around the whole world for not being good at
Being lousy
savings.
savers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're bad
Can you
savers. It's true.
share your, your insight on that? Why are Americans so bad at saving money?
We're bad savers for a number of reasons. But one reason we're bad savers is that we use a lot of credit in this country. It's like that there's a lot of credit available and in use, and we encourage consumption. So if you're a person making a certain amount of money and you want to buy that TV or whatnot, you probably can buy that TV. You just might have to owe the money. So there are a lot of negative saving households in America, and people dig themselves into a hole. That is not ideal, for the long term. You should be very careful with the amount of debt you take on, but that is very normal in American households, and it does stress people out. And I've been there too. I've owed $100,000 in school loans. I've had credit card debt that I paid off with different credit cards. Like, again, we've all been there. And I will say that if you can get yourself to the positive side of it, where you're actually putting money away and you don't feel that crushing burden of your credit card bill getting bigger all the time because, their interest rate's very high, it really helps many other aspects of your life. And so to me, good saving habits are vital, and financial literacy drives good saving habits.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, based off of, do you have any insight on other countries on what attributes to them saving more?
That's a good question. Well, I can speak a little bit to, to East Asia. Asians save more money, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean. Actually, Korean's an exception. I'll just do Chinese and Japanese. I think that at least in my family, there was a lot of intergenerational thinking, where you were working hard, but you were working hard to try and improve your kids' lives. And so if that's the case, then you naturally tried to save more. And whereas if you're just living for the here and now, then, maybe savings isn't as vital. So at least in my experience, certain Asian countries and cultures think more in terms of providing for your kids. Not to say obviously Americans provide for their kids and love their kids, like non-Asian Americans, but I think it's more deeply ingrained in certain other parts of the world.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully WSB can change that with our national campaign for financial literacy, obviously. And so, can you share with us a little bit more about, obviously, you are not in the running right now, but you've done a lot of different ventures right now now you have Humanity Forward.
Did you support me while I was running, Alicia? Were you part of the Yang Gang? You been watching this? No,
absolutely. Yes, and my brother even has a picture with you as well. So we are part of the Yang Gang.
That's pretty good proof. That's good proof. That's true.
But what I wanted to ask is that it seems like you're always on a search for establishing or change. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to ask is, a lot of people, I guess it goes back to my question earlier a little bit about how we have this traditional way of thinking sometimes about, getting a good corporate job and whatnot. Right now, and so how do you navigate let's say, for example, you getting out of the race, how did you not think of it as a failure and then decide to pursue something else? And you just seem to always be rolling with life with all the punches, but using it as opportunities. And I just wanted to know if you can kind of give some advice to people at home having that same kind of mindset.
I would love to. I'd be very happy to, because it's changed based upon my my stage of life and the stage of my career. So when I dropped out of the presidential race, I had a lot of people who were very excited about supporting me. And I knew I wanted to try and translate all of that support into a movement. And so we started a nonprofit, Humanity Forward. And then we just started trying to continue growing the movement. So that was a very natural transition, Alicia. But the other transitions I've had are probably more relevant to the people watching. So I'm going to describe one that really formed me. So I quit my first big corporate job to start a company, and the company flopped, and everyone knew the company flopped. We ran out of money. The investors lost everything. I still owed 100,000 in school loans, and it was devastating. I was looking around being like, well, what the heck am I going to do? Like, I just, my reputation is ruined. My parents, are lying to their friends, telling them I'm still a lawyer, and and these other things. So that was like a very, very difficult transition. And so now, that there are a million things I can do where like I have resources and people that are supporting me. But when I was in my 20s, like no one cared about Andrew Yang and his like failure, except for the people who knew me. But here's the big thing is that I thought that everyone cared about my failure, but for the most part, no one else did except for me. It's like they saw that I went out there and it didn't work out. And instead of thinking, oh, that Andrew Yang guy, like, I don't want anything to do with him, it was more like, oh, that Andrew Yang guy, he like tried that thing and it didn't work. And, he's interesting, capable, smart, like, like ambitious, which I did not think people would see me as. I just thought they would see me as a failure because that's what I felt like. But then when other people look at you, they actually are much more, frankly, objective and somewhat more like forgiving than you are of yourself. So at that time, it was tough. But what I did was like I found a job, honestly, because there are times when you have the wherewithal and the resources to go out on your own and make it happen. And then there are times when you have to turn to other people and say, look, like, I need more experience. I need more skills. I need an income. Like those things are all very, very real. And so the fact that now in my 40s, I have such a wide range of options, I'm incredibly grateful. But I remember vividly in my 20s feeling like my company ending was the end of the world. And I also appreciated everyone who still was my friend during that time, many of whom are still friends to this day.
I love that you bring this up because sometimes we feel hesitant to be able to ask for support because we feel judgment from our friends like, oh, this again, that again, and I say this because especially with, finances, even though so many people struggle with it in America, but it's like many people have talked about, it's kind of like this
crazy
taboo
black mark that like no one will talk about.
Exactly.
It's wild, Alicia. It's like you can talk about anything under the sun,
right?
And then they'll have no idea like what your like financial picture is, like what your income is, like like it's wild. Where this is like the domain that we're not allowed to share.
So what advice do you give to, our campaigners to not be afraid to ask, as you have probably had to ask help from the same people to support you on many different projects?
Yeah, it's not easy sometimes to get people to open up about the fact that they don't understand something or that they'd like to learn something. To me, the best way is to establish trust and just make it clear that you're there to help. That you're just like there to try and improve someone's well-being. And most of the time, like people will sense if you're sincere, and then they will be much more receptive to what you're trying to provide. Especially in this case, if you're trying to help someone clear up their financial picture and they could use that help. The problem is, though, as you just described, Alicia, is that many people get very, very stressed out even when they like think about money and like talk about money, and it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with this picture, and that is something that it requires some kind of trust to overcome, because if you're stressed out about talking about it, it probably stresses you out, and in some ways, you're even more in need of having a clearer picture so you don't get stressed out just at the thought of money.
Absolutely. May I ask you for advice for WSB? We have a big mission, a big campaign. We want to be able to educate all of North America, and hopefully after we can accomplish that, we can bring this to the rest of the world. Obviously
you have a lot of work right here in North America still.
Absolutely. And so, I know you had to take a big leap of faith doing something even like declaring running for president because let's be
Yes.
honest, there's not many
No, yeah,
people that
no.
look like us that would even think to consider to run for that position. So any advice for World System Builder as we try to, go out and campaign about our mission, our vision, and how to make this become a mainstream campaign?
No, it's the same advice I would give to individuals, which is to put yourself out there and then to try. And then know if you try and it doesn't work out, you will learn from it, you'll get stronger, and then you'll start out in entrepreneurship. Is that if you're used to environments where you get it right most of the time, then you get uncomfortable when, for example, like not everyone likes your stuff, or like nothing, not everything you do works. But if you're a sports fan, you should liken your pursuit of educating people in financial principles or entrepreneurship more like trying to hit a baseball as a professional baseball player, where if you hit 300, then you're an all-star. And that's true in a lot of entrepreneurship, and it's true in a lot of building a campaign where you can't expect that everyone's going to love everything you do, but if you get your fair share, then the sky is the limit. And then after you get your fair share, then some people it didn't work out initially will come back around.
Absolutely. Um, and I want to ask you now for advice for everyone, which is, handling this pandemic right now. I know you've talked a lot about, the future, right? And how automation and many other factors will impact a lot of jobs that we see today. And I assume that probably COVID-19 it actually fast forward kind of your vision about what might happen with technology and whatnot. But let's just say, right, maybe it might take many years. We don't know, hopefully sooner than later. But with your idea about universal or the freedom dividend, the $1,000 a month. But what if that takes a long time to happen? What kind of advice do you give to people right now to try to prepare for maybe loss of jobs due to robotics, automation, and all these other factors that you see that can impact the future economy?
This is going to be a very challenging time, and that is my big guidance for you, for everyone listening to this. So a few things, just in very real concrete terms. The first thing is just to take care of yourself, and your health and your mental health, because a lot of people are depressed right now. It's a very stressful time, and if you're not able to be healthy and strong and have your head on straight, then everything gets harder. And that requires some attention, some care. Like you should do the things that keep you more resilient, and invest in yourself in that way. That's number one. No, number two is to know that that the future is going to be tough and challenging, and so you should plan ahead that way. If you have the ability to save, Americans right now are saving more than they ever have. I don't know if that's welcome news, but the reason they're doing it is because they sense that this is going to be a very challenging time. So invest in yourself, take care of yourself, be judicious, and then the third thing, and I have to say this just given who I am and my background, vote, participate in politics, find a candidate you like, fill out your census, because we're going to need the government to help move the country and the economy forward out of this mess because of all of the trends and the job loss and the rest of it. And we need everyone here to know that it's our society, it's our country, it's our economy too. And we don't want these decisions to be made without us. And that might sound like an interesting, it's like, oh, like how should you be planning? But genuinely, the government is going to play a huge role, and we want to be right there at the table when it's making these decisions.
One last question for you here. Actually, our audience today is very diverse. We are 60% women listening in, and we have actually almost half of our participants are Asian American. We also have a big diverse group of people that identify as Afro or Black, and Latino, and of course a lot of other ethnicities I'm missing. But we're very well known as an organization, to speak 64 different languages, and just maybe as a final message, not necessarily, I mean, a little bit catered to maybe the minority, but also in general
Sure.
for all America. Kind of what's your message, as we end off here?
Well, thank you for describing who's here, because I think that first, women are the greatest untapped resource in the world, in the United States, like everywhere. And I know this from having worked in entrepreneurship for years. If you could actually unlock all of the business potential that women bring to the table, it would be transformative. And to the extent that this this movement can help in that regard, like, I am all for it, because women really right now, like, we're not even scratching the surface of the potential impact that women can have in our economy and society. We need more. And for the people of color who are watching this, we need to know that the sky's the limit for everyone in the United States of America. Doesn't matter what your background is, how long your family's been here, what color your skin is. It's one reason I ran for president. And certainly when I first started running, I'll be honest with you, it was hard to say the words, "I am running for president," because it was just hard to believe that. And it was hard to say that to someone else with a straight face and then have them react like it was serious. And to be honest, the first number of reactions I got were not encouraging, which is one reason why, like, even saying that was difficult. But then I kept saying it, and the more you say it, the more comfortable you get, the more real it becomes. And then it became real to other people too. So know that your potential is limitless as long as you believe it, you put yourself out there, you put in the work, because once you start believing it, other people will believe it right there with you.
That's awesome. I think everybody in the audience, doesn't matter if you're a person of color or not, can relate to that. Nothing can happen until you believe into yourself first. All of you at home, I invite you to give a big, big hand to Andrew Yang. Andrew, thank you so much for joining our Convention for a Cause. And WSB we hope that we can partner more with you in the future, and also, continue to do what you're doing, and being an inspiration to many of us out there.
Well, congratulations to you all. Stay safe out there. And yeah, let's make everyone more confident in their own futures.
Absolutely. We'll do it together.
Bye, everyone. It's great seeing you. Stay safe out there.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Lisha.
And with that, as Andrew mentioned, he does what he does, and many of us, we always want to do what's best for the next generation.